Hello, my loves. I'm Ellie Frost. Thank you so much for everyone that's here, that's liked, that's subscribed, sharing, supporting my channel and supporting this message in the world. We are talking about a multi-dimensional approach which helps you, well, radically transforms you actually through an elevation of your consciousness, understanding that this is a spiritual, emotional, physical, psychic and energetic issue that we get to radically heal from, right? Transform from, come into our own authentic power, sovereignty at another level so that we can manifest a much better life, right? And live in a completely different context. The damage that's done in narcissistic abuse is like complete detonation of every level of the human, and dealing with it on just one level and not the whole, yeah, it doesn't tend to shift the trauma, doesn't tend to shift the abuse cycles, doesn't tend to shift the pattern. But when you use what I'm teaching you here and talking about here, because we're working on all elements of you, your whole being, then it does radically transform you. And after you heal, there's a bit often of a void because, and I'm going to teach you everything here. I'm going to teach you, tools for life, because you don't know how to create your best life yet. And that's an important part of this. We don't want to be stuck in this void of I've just survived narcissism and now I've got no idea how to create beautiful relationships and a beautiful life. Much as love is your natural nature, you don't necessarily know how to manifest. You don't know who you are after a narcissist has shelled you out and you've lost your identity, right? You might not know what you want because you haven't been connected to your heart. And we don't want to be walking around the planet in defense mode because we don't know how to be energetically strong. I was saying in Sovereign yesterday that, like, I don't put loads of protection rituals around me. Although if you do that spiritually, a lot of people will imagine like a white bubble and a light, but a lot of people are in defense mode, especially after being under attack for their whole lives, right? Or a lot of their lives, or some of their lives after narcissistic abuse. I don't walk around the planet in defense mode. I walk around the planet wholeheartedly in love, yeah? And the reason I do that is because I've learned how to be energetically strong, which is what I'm teaching you here. So our goal isn't to spend the rest of our lives being in fear, being scared of losing ourselves. Is to find ourselves again, right? To start being amazing creators of our own reality. And I teach a lot about emotional intelligence, yeah, and responsibility, self-leadership for our own life. I had to lead myself through. It was hell. It was disastrous, right? And now what? Because my life was terrible. I had no money. Now what? My life was terrible. I couldn't sleep for months on end. I had PTSD. Now what? Yeah. There was no way out. I was completely trapped and it looked like I was in sinking sand. And the only possibility was that it could get worse. Now what? Right? The most logical possibility. Now what? Your life can get so radically better. You're going to like literally pinch yourself. You will not understand how it could go from one to the other when I show you what I know. And that's why I'm so passionate, because I'm not teaching you just to survive something. I'm teaching you to make it so history in your life and then insist that you matter. It starts with that decision I mentioned yesterday, that you matter. Yeah, when you're wondering, why do I have to put any more time? I'm exhausted. Any more money in my healing? It's not fair. The injustice of it. I'm telling you, because at some moment in time, you've got to decide you matter so much that your life, this is not your story, and this is not where your story ends. No matter how pointless, inequipped, unlikely that seems. And then you have the ability to start opening to something more possible. Emotional intelligence, yeah? And self-responsibility and self-leadership has got nothing to do with blaming ourselves. People think I'm taking responsibility by avoiding my emotions, which is a disaster. You have to process them to heal. Processing them, trying to deal with them by myself, not communicating them to the people that are involved, right? Not communicating, not setting boundaries, not setting standards. I'll just deal with it. Unfortunately, men have been pushed to do that, and that's not healthy for anyone. Men or women. It's not gender specific. It's just like, it's even more prevalent that men are sort of told to deal with it and not express it, unless it's anger, which seems to be the only one that, is socially acceptable in a lot of cultures for guys, more of anyway, not always, but to a large extent. So it's not about I deal with it by myself, I don't need to share this, I won't, because you've been taught you're a burden, by the way, by a narcissist. You've been taught that your needs don't matter. You've been taught that any emotional feeling you have is so unimportant because you don't matter. You're not really allowed to fully exist, right? You're not in your authentic power. So I don't want to burden them. Now, I made another video to say, but you've got to understand safety so that you don't get manipulated, so that you've got to understand the appropriate context for things. Being in my truth means I'm in my truth, but it doesn't mean the whole world needs to agree with me. So in my channel, I get to speak my truth, but I don't get to go down the street and just go up to people and think they have to hear my truth or know my truth. That's not it, right? Appropriate context is, we've got to be in appropriate context. It's not appropriate context to try and get a narcissist to empathize and show you compassion. They won't do it. They'll use it against you. So whereas in another relationship, your feelings can matter and you actually are working on harmony, resolution, connection and intimacy, you can't do that there. I made a video on co-parenting. Even if you're not co-parenting, it tells you exactly how to deal with narcissists, which is basically like they deal with you, strategically, to the point, as if it was a business situation. So you can't appeal to their empathy. So the context with a narcissist is not to share your emotions. The context is to keep it as to the point, yeah, as specific and to the point as possible, and stay in your authority without trying to convince them, without trying to validate or explain yourself. With a narcissist, you must not try and validate, explain, or convince them. I don't agree with that. That's not the way I see it. I need you to do this. I still mean what I say. I still need you to do that. If you can't, I'll make other arrangements. No emotional charge, no trigger. You've got to be healed enough, right? But it's like that, to the point, exactly, outcome focused, not looking for compassion or empathy. This is the biggest mistake. Now, when you've got friends and you're forming healthy relationships, you're going to be traumatized. You've got to get a community like this where you can chat, or a place where you don't just dump your pain on your friends, because really that's not great. That's not emotionally intelligent. You are responsible for your own emotions, but you're not responsible that you have them. So what people have done to you to make you feel that way is not your responsibility. It happened to you. But now you are responsible for your own healing, self-leadership, investment in your resources, your time, your energy, your money, in accordance to your personal growth, so that you radically shift this and create a brilliant life. Yeah? But your friends aren't dumping grounds. And when we're traumatized, we're in so much panic. So if you've got a counselor, if there's a lot of, I think there's groups on the internet, right, where you can go in. And I know I might say I'm a bit mean, not mean, I'm a bit sarcastic when I say, because I joined some of those groups and I got annoyed because a lot of people were like, oh, my narc, and comparing notes and treating it like it was a fluffy pet when it's like a seriously destructive demon on the planet. And I just didn't like this my narc culture thing, which isn't me being, I'm not trying to be a biatch. I'm just saying that minimizing how serious this is keeps people stuck. You know, I'm not here for that. I'm here for you living your best life, and you can't do it when you're trapped, and you can't do it when you're miserable, and you can't do it when you're treating a dangerous demon like a fluffy little pet. So if you use those words, I'm not saying don't do it, and I'm not trying to be a biatch. I'm just saying that I got frustrated because when I was desperate to search for answers, I just saw the my narc clubs. Oh yeah, my narc did this, but I'm not here for that. I'm here for you moving, shifting, creating magic in your life, abundance in your life, joy in your life, intimacy, passion, sexually, emotionally, physically, the whole shebang. It might seem strange to you, but it doesn't matter. Even if you take a tiny piece of that, right, your life gets to be a lot more blessed and magical. You know what I mean? I want to bring that magic in your life. I don't want to be part of the My Narc Club. Right now, if you are there, I'm not criticizing you. I'm saying that there are places where you can dump stuff with people who are willing to hold you there. A therapist, a coach, maybe a My Narc Club, right? Or a support group, right? But your friends aren't. Your friends are there, yes, to support you, but in a good context. It's not the place where you know, where you get to, so look at it like this. You get to process your pain. You have to process your pain. Sometimes talking doesn't give you relief unless you've got the tools I'm teaching you here, or, you know, like where you actually get to process, to move towards letting it go, right? Which means I've got to feel it. I've got to acknowledge it. There's stages to that. But you know, we've got to know context, because we'll alienate people if we just use people as dumping grounds. That's not how we build connection. That's not about being inauthentic, right? What I would say to a friend of mine, if I was having a hard time, I would say, like, I wouldn't lie, because that's not true. I'm always true, but I just know the difference, right? So the difference is me saying to you, look, they say, you okay? Rather than dumping everything on them, which is a lot to take, I would say, you know, I'm all right. I'm having a bit of a tough time right now. Yeah, I don't want to dump all that on you. And I'm really happy to be here with you, and it's lovely to have a meal, but I am a bit distracted because I'm processing something pretty hard. Yeah. And they might say, look, but you've got to keep in boundaries. You've got to know that, like, in narcissistic relationships, you have very low boundaries and standards at this point, because the narc will push every boundary and standard you have and has none. There is no limit to the disgusting shit they'll do to you. None. They've got no values, none in integrity, no good values, and there's no limit to it. They get worse over time. People think, I was saying to a client yesterday, we think it's like, sometimes we think, well, I'll just give them enough energy to keep them happy, like watering a plant, and it will just stay the same. No, it's like a snowball. It builds momentum. It gets more destructive. So most of us, a lot of us would have said, oh, I'll just keep playing the game to keep the peace. It doesn't work like that with a narcissist. They get worse over time. So while we think I'm just letting them siphon the energy, but it will just to keep it the peace, that's not it. Use the co-parenting strategies, the communication strategies I'm putting here. Business only. Strip the emotion out. Very direct communications. Nothing to siphon. Like the grey rock method. It gets worse over time. Now we want to build intimacy, beautiful relationships. We cannot just dump our trash on our friends. It doesn't work like that. We've been made toxic a lot of the time in toxic dynamics. So we've got to learn things. We've got to improve the standards for our life. Yeah. And then people are only going to respect our boundaries when we're living our standards for ourselves. Otherwise, we're just a hypocrite that no one respects. So I'm going to keep teaching you about emotional intelligence. I want you to know this is not where your story ends. I had narcissistic abuse my entire life. My growing up situation was not nice. It was not nice. I didn't have love modeled to me. I didn't have connection modeled to me. I didn't have communications modeled to me. I just had abuse. Yeah. So, like, which is, you know, something I wouldn't admit for a long time. So what's possible for you is something so different to what you've experienced, but we've got to now get skilled at it. We've got to understand narcissistic abuse. We've got to heal from it. We've got to radically change the boundaries and standards of our communication skills to be a great energetic match in the universe, to intimacy, to love, and to joy. And if you're having to deal with a narcissist, okay, fine. You can still be a great energetic match, right? Because this is part of it. There has to be places you get to be yourself. There has to be places where you get to love and be loved. And there has to be places where you get to drop your defenses and be you. I'm going to teach you that, all right? So please keep commenting, please keep sharing, please subscribe, please help me get this message out in the world, because it will honestly change people's lives. I know a lot of you said it already has, and I so love hearing that. I'm talking to every version of me that was going through hell, that this would have changed them, right? This would have changed me. I'm doing it for you, for me, and for our collective here and wider, because it matters and it does change things on the planet, right? And the more of us that come into this awareness, the less that there's going to be any possibility of this level of abuse. We're in a massively imbalanced dynamic right now, and we can change it. And you matter. Your ripple effect matters. Your understanding of this knowledge, awareness, consciousness, being the example of someone who lives like differently after this matters. There are people you impact every day, right? There's a ripple effect to this. I love you, and I'll speak to you soon.